All right. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone attending this evening's meeting in person that the meeting is being recorded and that this room is equipped with microphones throughout that will pick up any talking. So please refrain from having sidebar conversations that you do not wish for the microphones to record. With that being said, I call the meeting of July 1st, 2024 to order at 6 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, tonight we have Pastor Augustine Ansu with our invocation from Seattle Ghanaian Church.
Thanks for the invitation. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, the creator and sustainer of the universe, it's always a privilege to be called upon to serve. For you came down from heaven to serve us, and you have commissioned us to serve our communities without lording it over them. So, Lord, as we begin this session, I pray and commit your chosen servant before you. As you've always guided them through their meetings, tonight, Lord, we ask that you will lead them. Your word says in Proverbs 15:22 that without counsel, plans fail, but with the multitude of counselors, they are established. So, Lord, guide them through their deliberations. When their minds are overstretched, Lord, guide them. We pray that, Lord, they will always see the results of their leadership and rejoice. Make them a blessing for the people they serve and bless their individual lives as well. We hope by the close of tonight, we will have a cause to give praise to you. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Potato,
Here.
Bowman,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Clairgett,
Here.
Cole,
Here.
Alfers,
Here.
Ranky.
Here.
Everybody's here tonight. Okay, first thing on the agenda is a presentation. I call on City Administrator Jason Wilson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for giving me a few minutes this evening rather, to recognize some of our wonderful staff. Tonight, we're going to talk about the White River Restoration Project. So for the viewing public, a little bit of history. So in 2013, the city sold 151 acres of the former Sumner Meadows Golf Course to a developer. At that time, we had no idea what the next 11 years had in store for us. As part of the closing process, the city had many things it needed to complete prior to finally closing. As we worked through those things, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers asserted the potential jurisdiction over the man-made water hazard ponds on the former golf course. That caused us to take a pause, and in 2014 and 15, the city studied the matter and determined that a jurisdictional determination was likely. To put it another way, what they were saying was the man-made water hazards, once again, man-made, were waters of the United States, which means that they had ecological benefit that we needed to deal with. In 2015, the state provided the city with an $815,000 grant to study the issue and develop a plan for a long-term solution that would protect the over $3 billion worth of assets in the manufacturing and industrial center, while also protecting and restoring fish habitat. The state funding was used to create a dialogue group. At the time, the group included the city, Pierce County, Puyallup Tribe of Indians, and the Muckleshoot Indian Tribe, and several non-government environmental entities. While the dialogue group worked, in 2017, FEMA released new flood maps, resulting in a significant portion of the land that we sold to no longer be developable. At about the same time, the city started to experience increased impacts to the area during high water events from the White River. In 2018, based on the updated FEMA maps, the 2013 purchase and sale agreement was renegotiated, bringing the amount of land sold for development to approximately 71 acres. Also in 2018, the dialogue group settled on a four-part solution known as the White River Restoration Project. One of those projects, which is at the southern end, is a project that would create 200 acres of habitat restoration, project that creates space for high river waters in a flow that's more natural manner, creates habitat for six protected fish species, including the Shaduk, sockeye, and chum salmon. And the habitat restoration project is the largest ever in the Puyallup River watershed. For several years, the city worked with our dialogue group partners, as well as regional government and non-government entities, to design the project. What makes this project unique is that it protects fish, enhances critical habitat, and our economic vitality. The unique goals of each of the stakeholders were met. The city obtained $35 million in grants, including the largest ever award from Puget Sound Acquisition Restoration at $14.6 million. In 2022, the Army Corps of Engineers issued the city its permit for the project, setting the path forward for final design. At around the same time, it became clear that our adjacent government and non-government entities no longer had the desire or ability to be part of this historic restoration project. Our project team quickly pivoted and were able to redesign the project in a manner that enhanced the restoration project while protecting the millions of dollars of grant funds and saving the project. Early last month, the council approved the Phase 1 earthwork contract. 6 years of tireless dedication by our staff is what helped get the project over the finish line. To say that this is a milestone is a huge understatement. I would consider the White River Restoration Project a legacy project. And what do I mean by that? A legacy project in my mind is one that the scope and importance of the project is one that will outlast a career and will have a lasting public benefit. Not everyone in local government has the opportunity to be part of a project of this magnitude, but often this underlying desire of public benefit is why people get into government work in the first place. I'm proud to say that this project is one that has and will continue to be recognized as the gold standard of what collaboration looks like. So tonight, I want to recognize the project team publicly. They have dedicated thousands of hours to this project since 2018, many times having multiple meetings a week with stakeholders, neighboring entities, scientists, and project designers. They have gone above and beyond to demonstrate our city values of collaboration, professionalism, innovation, visionary, responsiveness, accountable, respect, and integrity. They worked through extreme challenges in a project that seemed to morph at every turn. There were so many variables that impacted others that it took extreme grit and positivity to get this project over the finish line. And I'm extremely proud of them and their achievements. So we're going to have the three core project team members come up. I'm also going to name a number of other city employees that worked on this. So Development Services Director Doug Beagle, City Attorney Andrea Marquez, and Engineering Specialist Robbie Wright. If you guys could all come up and join me. What I have for them, so they can remember this project, is a handmade wooden salmon made by my neighbor, so I really appreciate it. My neighbor's actually here tonight, John Falkowski. So give you guys each one of those. Thank you. Let you pick out the bubble wrap at your pleasure. I'll tell you a little bit about each one of them. Doug Beagle, prior to becoming the Development Services Director, Doug served as the Deputy Public Works Director and was assigned to this project almost on day one that he started here. When he came to the project, there was no common ground, or nearly no common ground with all the stakeholders. Despite that, he worked hard to develop genuine relationships with them, identifying their key objectives and ensuring that they were met throughout the design process. Doug also worked closely with the design team to understand the constructability of the project and spent a lot of time figuring out what are we going to do with all this dirt that we're going to move out of this project, about 300,000 cubic yards, just crazy. Then next, Andrea Marquez. We owe her a lot. A project of this size required over 36 complex legal documents, which took hundreds of hours of negotiating with stakeholders and adjacent entities. This was an extremely tiring task as she continually balanced protecting the city long-term while achieving the project's goals. As the project morphed, the legal complexities and finish lines continually moved. Without Andrea's professionalism, determination, and integrity, we would not be here today. And last, Robbie Wright. Robbie has worked tirelessly to seek outside funds to construct the Habitat project. The grant funds obtained all required complex grant applications, understanding funding limitations, and how to leverage one set of funds for another. He has presented multiple times to our funding agencies and kept them apprised of the project challenges. He has a keen understanding of the environmental benefits of this project, as well as the impact to the city water rights pilot project. Robbie also continues to be instrumental in other phases of the White River Restoration Project, including managing the acquisition of several properties upriver of the Habitat project for the Pacific Point Bar portion of it. While this project team did much of the heavy lifting, they could not have accomplished this alone. It was truly a team effort by many of the people out at the city, our stakeholders, and our consultants. So from the city, and I undoubtedly will have not listed somebody, so I apologize in advance, but from the city, Communications Director Carmen Palmer, who's here tonight, Development Engineer Joe Fessler, Senior Planner Scott Waller, Public Works Director Michael Cosa, Deputy Public Works Director Elisa Ojeda, retired Public Works Director Mike Dahlem, retired City Administrator John Galley, and retired Mayor Bill Pugh. From our stakeholders, we really want to thank the Puyallup Tribe of Indians Council, the Puyallup Tribal Fisheries folks, Russ Ladley, Charlene and Angela Dillon, the Muckleshoot Indian Tribe Council, and from their Fisheries Department, Patrick Reynolds and Martin Fox, Pierce County, Lisa Spurrier, and retired Harold Smelt. Our consultants, man, we spent a lot of time with them, and they obviously had to continually change the design as entities came and went on this project. But our lead consultants from NSD, Steve Winter and Matt Tiedemann, were amazing. They were just in town last week. It's nice to see them in person instead of over a screen. And then outside counsel, we had Molly Lawrence, Don Marcy, and Tom Poors. And obviously our funders. Without them, none of this would be possible. That's Pierce County Flood Control Zone District, Puget Sound Acquisition and Recovery, Floodplains by Design, and you, as Sumner City Council members, funding it through our utility departments. So thank you to everyone who has been a part of this, has had a part to play in this legacy project. There will be additional opportunities in the future to celebrate the success of this project as different milestones occur. So thank you tonight for this opportunity to recognize these wonderful employees that made this
Let's
project
give them
possible.
a hand. Thank you, guys. All right. Moving on to consent agenda. Will the clerk please read the consent agenda?
Resolution number 1691, interlocal agreement for multi-agency specialty teams. Item number 2, approval of the checks and electronic payments in the amount of 1,600,000. Let me try that again. Approval of checks and electronic payments in the amount of $1,636,162.46. Item number 3, approval of the meeting minutes from the June 17, 2024 regular council meeting and the 24th of June, 2024 study session.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Cole, would you please make a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Yes, I move to adopt the consent agenda of July 1st, 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bowman. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Would any council member like to remove an item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain? Passes unanimous. Okay. Moving on to, we have no public hearing tonight. Regular unfinished business. Michelle, we will move on to public comment because we have no unfinished business. And Michelle, would you please read the rules for public comment?
This is the time for you to address the mayor and the council as a whole regarding items that are not on the agenda. When the mayor calls your name, please approach the podium. If you are participating via Zoom, use the raise your hand or telephonically press *9. Before you begin your remarks, please state your name and address or the city in which you reside for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak. As a reminder, public comment is a time for the council to hear from you and not a time to engage in back and forth. If you raise specific questions, the mayor may direct you to the appropriate staff member for further discussion.
Thank you. I have one signed up. Bill Adams, could you come up and give your address and have your say?
Randall Adams, 63rd Street, Cordes. Let me start my commitments by acknowledging that for the first time ever, the city has reached out to the citizens and asked us if we want you to renovate the Ryan House as one of the 3 priority options that for the city to do.
Mr. Adams, can you turn your mic, please?
Is it not on?
No, but turn up.
Oh,
Hold on.
how far did I get?
Is it counting against your time?
Oh, whoops, thank you. Let me start out with my comments by acknowledging that for the first time ever, the city has reached out to the citizens and asked if we want you to renovate the Ryan House as one of the 3 priority options for the city to do. Thank you for that. We are trying our best to let everyone know that the survey needs to be completed by July 12th, so you will know what citizens actually want. A few meetings ago, you asked the staff, how could the sale of the golf course go from 46 million down to 41? Now that the sale has closed, you can simply ask for a settlement statement from escrow that the staff will have so that you can see what the cost that reduced it by. The actual sales price has been published to be 46,779,382. Please know that the city pays no excise taxes, so we saved over $1.5 million there. I hope that the city didn't pay a 10% commission in the sale due to it being one of the largest available commercial sites in the Puget Sound area. Yet if they did, you would still have netted 42 million. I think commissions paid were much lower than that, and that there is a bill for moving dirt that Andrea had spoke of previously. And hope that that dirt is the dirt that is needed for the new link trail area over by the railroad tracks, so that it can be elevated because it has to be moved. And accounting for this can easily be given to you so that you can review, and you should be able to match up the balance in your new account for the proceeds from this sale. Also, in previous announcements about the golf course sale, it was noted that the utility ratepayers were in line for a rebate for their contributions in purchasing the land for the golf course. The general fund is also due a reimbursement and is getting millions. Yet we hear nothing regarding the utility ratepayers. There are no suggestions for a rebate for the ratepayers, and instead the city wants us to cover the entire cost of the bond for the utility complex. Regarding the splitting of the proceeds from the White River or from the golf course, the previous council committed 20 million toward the White River real estate reclamation project and 10 toward the utility complex. Staff was amazingly proficient, got over 50% of what the WWRP funds needed with grants, and has revised their 20% proposed down to 10 for you. Thus, staff has earned the right to ask for more toward the general funds commitment because of these grants. Yet 25% million now that they asked for, looks like they're throwing this large amount high up on the wall to see how far down it comes before you decide to stop it. The council previous commitment of 30 million, 20 plus 10 from the proceeds should be kept by you, except now it should be reversed. 10 to the White River project and 20 for the general funds commitment toward the utility department. This keeps the 30 million promise to staff, and allows you $11 million to do what you and citizens may prioritize and see what happens. Can I hear a faint sound of Save the Ryan House getting louder now? That was humor.
Your time is up.
That was
Thank you.
humor.
All right, anybody else? Come on up and give your address.
It on? Oh, it is, yeah. Tina Burnett, 228 Sumner Avenue. I want to thank Jason and the mayor for the city talk at the senior center today. It was great to see that. We had a good discussion. Poor Nick was there with 5, 6 old ladies. But it was great to actually have a discussion instead of just these 3-minute comments. When I got home, I told my brother how good it was. And he said, well, did you ask about public transportation? And I said, no, totally forgot. So, we really need to get Pierce County Transit in here to provide some public transportation. And I've heard vague talk about it before, but if you can point me to somebody who can give me more details. As a disabled person, he really needs to be able to get around. He can't take his wheelchair 10 blocks away to hit a bus maybe there. But if he wants to get somewhere in Sumner, I said, well, I'll take you anywhere. He said, but what if you're not here? So if you could point me to somebody for the public transportation. The other thing I want to say about the Ryan House, at Rhubarb Days, we talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people cherish that house. And however it ends up, just remember that there are hundreds of people in this town, maybe more, that want to save the house. Not just old people who remember it as the library, but young people too. It's really is a cherished resource, and we should do whatever we can to save it if it's possible. I got a minute left, but I'm done. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
That man right over there in the green shirt, when you get time after
Oh.
he's done, might be the one to talk to. That's
Oh.
Brian Windish.
Thank you.
think I'm next. Unless there's more people who want to speak in
Okay.
public comments or more.
Did anybody else want to speak on the White River? We did.
Jump
have
the gun
one.
here.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Say something real quick.
Yeah.
It's still on, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll also thank the mayor for taking the time today to talk for a few minutes with us. A sit-down session where you get to answer questions, or sorry, where you get to ask questions and have them.
Excuse me, could you please?
Oh, name Nick Bierman, Parker Road East. So, yeah, having a sit-down session where you can talk one-on-one, face-to-face means so much more than speaking out and hoping that your comments are heard without having your questions answered. So the FaceTime, the one-on-one meant a lot to us, and we really do appreciate that opportunity. In fact, I wish there were more opportunities like that in town here. And then the other comment I will add to what Tina was talking about with talking to people at Rhubarb Days, there was a lot of support for the Ryan House, and also a lot of questions about what the future holds. We got people asking us all kinds of questions about what the future does hold, but I don't know that we have all the answers for them right now, since it's a city-owned property. So right now it's all up in the air, up in limbo, and a lot of people were not happy to hear that. A lot of people who visit for festivals, who visit from out of town and come to Sumner specifically for events like Rhubarb Days, a lot of them were surprised to hear of the controversy, or surprised to hear that the Ryan House was in danger. A lot of people didn't really realize that this building that they took for granted every time they came to Sumner for events and festivals, that it was in danger of being lost. I think the education is still ongoing as far as that goes. So I mean, that's what we were able to do as far as raising awareness, and I would say we got hundreds of people who definitely felt similar to us. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? All right, seeing none, we move on to new business. Ordinance number 2891, amending Sumner Municipal Code 3.22, affordable housing sales and use tax code. Councilmember Potato, would you like to make a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance number 2891, amending the Affordable Housing Sales and Use Tax Code to be consistent with recent changes in state law.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Elfers, and I call on Director Ryan Windish.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, members of the City Council. Before you tonight is ordinance 22891, and it would amend our Affordable Housing Sales and Use Tax Code in the Sumner Municipal Code, which was adopted back in July of 2020. And it's consistent with state law, which came into being through House Bill 1406. So we often actually refer to these as 1406 funds. And what it is it's a credit of the state portion of the sales tax that goes back to, that remains with the city. And it's for acquisition, construction, or rehabilitation of affordable housing or facilities providing supportive housing. For the operations and maintenance costs of affordable or supportive housing. And it can even be used for providing rental assistance to tenants. So the ordinance was originally adopted in July of 2020, and in 2024, a Senate bill came through the legislature that made some changes. And it provided additional flexibility for the use of the tax to serve households whose income is at or below 80% of the county or city median income in using the funding. So the 80% level can be used for housing that is intended to be owner occupied. And often with an affordable owner occupied housing situation, you need to have at least 80% of the median. If you're much below that, it can actually still be unaffordable. So this provides a range at 80% for owner occupied housing, and then 60% or lower for leased housing. And this was a decision that when it went before the City Council Finance Committee, they recommended clarifying the code such that 60% of the median income or less would be for leased housing units. And the changes highlighted in the ordinance. So to recap, we get some dollars from the state sales tax portion, about 50,000 a year. That is directed over to SHAPE, which is the South Sound Housing Affordability Partnership that the city's part of. It's really a coalition of cities throughout the county and the county for kind of pooling our funds and pooling our resources to develop affordable housing. And so this change again would broaden the opportunity for affordable owner occupied housing. 80% of the income. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Ryan?
I believe you said something about rental assistance. And how would that work?
That would work through, probably through SHAPE, honestly. The reason we are part of SHAPE, the South Sound Housing Affordability Partnership, is because the city of Sumner really doesn't have the staff and the capacity to manage something like that. So really what SHAPE's been talking about has been pooling the city's funds along with a few other cities and either purchasing or developing affordable housing. They're not pursuing a rental assistance program in Sumner.
They are not. Okay, all right. Thank
Any
you.
other questions for Ryan? All right. Seeing none, any comments from the public on this? Seeing none. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ranky,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Elfers,
Yes.
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Yes.
Passes unanimous. All right. Moving on to ordinance number 2889, amending Sumner Municipal Code 2.100 personnel policies. Councilmember Bowman, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move to adopt ordinance number 2889, amending Sumner Municipal Code 2.100 personnel policies.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Plurgett. I call on Administrative Services Director Jeff Stephens.
Good evening, council and mayor. Before you tonight is ordinance 2889, which updates the Sumner Municipal Code regarding personnel policies. This ordinance has three main components. The first is it consolidates vacation and sick leave accruals into one combined paid time off leave type, or known as PTO. It eliminates the city's shared sick leave program and updates language regarding employee bereavement leave. So the question is, why the change? Why are we moving to a PTO plan? Currently, we have problems with our leave usage being consistent with city policy. It's difficult to write separate policies that will govern both sick leave and vacation leave. For instance, typically vacation leave has to be planned for in advance, but that doesn't allow an employee that's got all their work done. It's a nice day and they want to leave an hour early. And typically that wouldn't be allowed by policy. So it's just kind of easier to combine them into one. We know that we have some departments that are using the different leave types interchangeably already. So kind of another reason to change. We also have employees that have moved to flexible schedules. Most of our city hall employees are no longer working 8-hour shifts. So having 8-hour holidays doesn't make a lot of sense. We also know that large leave banks and leave accruals create a long-term financial liability for the city. Employees that have big leave banks and leave, whether they retire or move on to work at another job, create a burden. Those cash outs are often cumbersome for some departments, causing the city to have to leave positions vacant to recover those costs. And we've also got recent updates in state sick leave and protected leave law changes that we need to take advantage of. So really what this does, it takes employees' existing sick leave balances and they remain the same and they can still be used as sick leave. Vacation leave balances will transfer over to a PTO bank, but there is no loss in either bank to employees' leave. Their current totals are just moved across when they're kind of called something different. Then moving forward, employees will no longer accrue sick and vacation leave, and now will accrue PTO leave, excuse me. Existing sick banks will no longer accrue, so you'll no longer get to add to your sick bank total, but you can still use it. We'll be changing floating and holiday hours to 9-hour days to kind of coincide with our employees' shifts that they're actually working. We're also going to make a change, so leave accruals will happen 26 times a year, so they will line up with our pay dates. As you remember, we switched from being paid twice a month to being paid every 2 weeks, so these leave accruals will now match that time period. And overall, employees will get the same numbers of annual leave before and after this change, which was important. We've also changed some of the caps, so the maximums that you can have. Previously, you could have, depending on when you started, either 280 or 368 hours of vacation leave, plus then another cap of sick leave. Now we've combined that into a cap of 640 hours. But if you leave, you can only get paid out off of maximum of 420 hours. So what this does is it kind of cuts down our financial liability moving forward as employees burn through that old sick leave. This limits the amount of leave that they can kind of stack up and have available. As far as shared leave, as I mentioned, we're discontinuing a shared leave program. Shared leave was if an employee had catastrophic medical need, they could get leave donated from another employee. That process is entirely manual and difficult to run through our payroll software. It also has a ton of IRS tax implications that are difficult to manage. We also have a new state program called the Paid Family Medical Leave, or PFML, which is available to employees. Employees are paying into that, and it's a benefit that they can access, and they are accessing now. Employees are really no longer even using shared leave. Our current laws made it so you had to exhaust all of your leave to be eligible for shared leave. With Paid Family Medical Leave, you can keep that PTO leave or sick leave, still take paid family medical leave, come back to work, and have some leave still available to use. And previously, donations were inconsistent, reliable. It was hard for an employee to plan on how long they could be gone because it was dependent on how many donations we would get. And then lastly, a change to bereavement leave. So previously, bereavement leave was geographically based on where the person lived, was where they lived before they died, if that makes sense. an aunt that passed away that lived in Oregon would give you 5 days off, where a spouse that passed away in Washington would only give you 3. We didn't feel like that made a whole lot of sense. So what we've done is we've kind of expanded the eligibility. We've put as much as we could all of these different relationships into immediate family and extended family categories. And then we've also created a new category for if a coworker or retiree passed away, employees would get up to 4 hours of bereavement leave to go attend a memorial service. As far as the timeline, I'm here this evening. We plan on releasing a policy document to our employees tomorrow. We've had meetings with all of our employees, a series of meetings over the last few weeks. This went to Finance Committee in June. If approved, our first new 9-hour holiday would be this Thursday, the 4th of July. And then we'll be working on making the transition after that. This will fully be implemented on the 21st. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Right. Any comments from the public first? Seeing none, any comments from the council? No? Thank you, Jeff. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alfers,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Ranky,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Target,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
This is unanimous. Okay. All right, so now we move down to ordinance number 2890, 2023, 2024 budget amendment. Councilmember Ranky, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2890, the 2023 to 2024 budget amendment.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bowman. I call on Chief Financial Officer Cassandra Raymond.
Good evening, everyone. So before you is ordinance 2890. This is our Q2 2024 amendment to the 23-24 biennial budget. We do these amendments on a quarterly basis to be sure that we're providing council and our community with a timely and transparent view of our budget needs. This gives our staff, our council, and our management the opportunity to review changes, revisit forecasts, and address any programmatic changes. We do review our budget amendments in detail at the Finance and Personnel Committee. So this has gone through that process. And really, this budget amendment process is part of our overall financial management framework. This particular amendment will be recognizing a little over $4 million in additional revenues. Primarily, those are grant funds. We have a transfer in with a corresponding transfer out of $260,000. And then $3.7 million in additional expenditures. And I'd like to take a look at these by fund and provide additional information. In our general fund, consistent with our council discussions, earlier this year, we'll be reducing our 23-24 overlay program by $300,000. We also are recognizing an insurance settlement and corresponding expenses in our facilities fund to address arson damage at our sports complex. We'll be recognizing $500,000 in a climate change grant, but you'll see we've only programmed to spend $100,000 of that in 2024. And that really is timing. We have a work plan as part of that grant. Realistically, we cannot complete the entire thing by the end of 2024. So you'll see the other $400,000 programmed into 2025 as part of our upcoming biennial budget process. In finance, I'm requesting $14,000 for additional software support and training. This is a new program that we were made aware of after we adopted the original budget. This is Tyler Technologies PACE program. This is a discounted bundle of training and conference registrations. We utilized this last year. We're utilizing it again this year. And this really does provide a generous discount on training days that we can use for new staff, for new processes, for understanding the software better. And we have a 12-day package that we're proposing. In Metro, we'll be adding $11,300. I'll talk about this a little bit later when I get into Fund 440. But as part of the Metro program, we pay for our per capita just like the other cities do, and we have an increase at the end of 2023. $18,000 requested for the 2025-2026 budget survey. So that's a survey that's out now. We're really excited about. That's using a third-party firm to gather a statistically valid sample. And then we have a transfer out of our city council strategic reserve of $70,000 for design of the amenities at 902 Kincaid after the demolition. This is consistent with earlier discussions with council supporting an overall transfer of $300,000 for that project. So far, we've transferred $170,000 for the demolition, and this is an additional $70,000 for design of those temporary amenities. And then $114,000 transfer out from the council strategic reserve funds. So it's for Washington Street design that was discussed at last week's study session. And then a transfer out from general fund for cemetery security improvements. This is security improvements at the buildings at our cemetery, both for access and intrusion control, as well as fencing and gating for additional security to be able to hold police evidence at that site. Complete Streets will be recognizing a grant award and associated expenditure of $500,000 in that program. That's Fund 103. In Fund 310, this is Parks and Trail Capital. It's recognizing that $70,000 transfer out from the general fund and the associated expenditure for the 902 Kincaid amenity design. As well, we are accepting a $1.6 million grant with the associated expenditure from Pierce County LTAC. This is for final design on the Heritage Park and alley activation. Street Capital, this is the transfer in for Washington Streets improvements. This is the design portion that'll be split with the utilities, and then that associated expenditure. The $76,000 transfer into facilities capital with that expenditure. In stormwater, we'll be accepting a $1.5 million Pierce County floodplains by design grant. This is for construction at the 24th Street project with that expenditure as well. And then in Metro Animal Services, we'll be reducing our per capita revenues. This is really a true up from what was budgeted to what we ended up assessing onto the city. So this is adjusting back down to what we had programmed in with the per capita amount that we requested from the cities. In addition, we've got a contribution from Best Friends, which is an organization out east that are funding $1,700 for one of our animal control officers to attend some additional training. And so then the $1,700 increase in the training budget for that fund. That is this amendment at a glance. I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, we got to go over this line item by line item with Finance Committee, so thank you for that.
Any questions? No? Councilmember Elfers.
Hey, this one, you might not be able to answer this, but I'd love to know it later if you don't.
Yeah.
What was the, do you know what the estimate of what the total cost was for that arson?
I don't. We can certainly follow up on that. Yeah.
Just curious.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Bowman,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Claraget,
Yes.
Frankie,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, unanimous. Okay. So we will go through our reports. So we do have an executive session after that. Let's start with Councilmember Clerget.
I just want to remind everybody to make sure they fill out their Sumner survey, so we get a good know what's going on. Thank you.
Yep. Councilmember Bowman.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to wish everyone a happy 4th of July, and hopefully it's safe and people can get some rest before midnight, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Member Elfers.
Yeah, I just wanted to wish everyone a happy 4th of July, and also just want to give a quick update. Really good news on the Puget Sound Regional Council. We had about $29 million. This is our kind of our big annual decision at the council. We get to recommend where to allocate funds, and so we had about $30 million for the funds to allocate for Pierce County. Sumner did a fantastic job this year. We put in 6 applications. I think average trending, we would expect to get like $3 million. This year, we were awarded, we're recommending about 8 million. So we got some pretty good funding. It's really great for the city. So again, thank you staff, for all the work on those applications and really good scoring this year on that. So they did a good job. So I think that's just was a great news. That was last Thursday. So it was a little bit tenuous, and I was really thankful that we got that through.
Just one thing, Rhubarb Days was a lot of fun. Looking forward to next year.
Member Potato.
Everything's been said that I was gonna say, but I do think that it was good to see how active Rhubarb Days was, and we're getting back to the old arts festival kind of energy in the city. And then, be sure watch your fireworks on the 4th, because I'm kind of, that's one thing we need to remember. Public safety is as important as celebrating. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Rankin.
Yes, I'd just like to echo the same. Everybody have a safe and sane 4th of July this Thursday, and be safe and enjoy the weather. It's gonna be nice.
Councilmember Brown.
Have a good time, but be safe on the 4th.
City Administrator.
Good evening, Mayor and Council again. Excuse me. Coming up next week at the July 8th study session, you'll be receiving an update on the 2024 comprehensive plan update, focusing specifically on the EIS preferred alternative review. At the July 15th regular council meeting, you'll consider a resolution to accept a commerce grant for the cemetery facility, a resolution for an interlocal agreement with Pierce County for updating the commute trip reduction plan, a resolution accepting community court funding, a consultant supplement for design regarding the River Grove pedestrian bridge, a construction contract award for lift stations 2 and 6 control panel replacement, a contract with CDWG for Microsoft 365 annual software licensing, an ordinance updating the City of Sumner building codes, and a PSC easement acquisition related to the Stewart Road Bridge. As many of you indicated, the 4th of July is coming up this week on Thursday. So just a couple of friendly reminders. Fireworks are only legal to discharge in the city limits on July 4th from noon until midnight. Unless it's an emergency. I think we all know what an emergency looks like around the 4th of July. Firework complaints can be reported to the police using the non-emergency police number, which is 253-287-4455, or you can file a report online. More information about our fireworks regulations, including the online report link, can be found on our website homepage. I'm happy to answer any questions from council.
Any questions? Thank you. Well, so please be sure and take your survey. Tell us what your priorities are for Sumner, and residents received a postcard for them. You can also take it with links on the website. So make sure you make your opinion known. We are going into executive session. Now, tonight to discuss with legal counsel pending or threatened litigation per RCW 42.30.100, 1II, and RCW 42.30.1101B to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase for a period of 30 minutes, and there will be no action to follow. So we are adjourned into executive session at 6:48 p.m.